dream that keeps you up at night is the real dream you should be chasing. But to chase that dream, to find that dream, to make that dream a reality, you need a strategy.
Don't waste your time trying to live someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma. Focus in on your own strengths, your own element, what you have to offer.
If you really want to achieve something, you'll find a way. And if you don't, you'll find excuses.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. My one word is believe, and I believe in you. I believe you have Michael Jordan level talent at something, and I want you to find it, embrace it, and make a difference using it. So let's get your motivation to a 10 and get you believing in you. Grab a snack and chew in today's lessons from a man who went from being bullied as a child for being overweight and nerdy to becoming a monk in India to now having a goal to make wisdom go viral and being one of the most viewed people on the internet. He's Jay Shetty, and here's my take on his top 10 rules of success, volume 2. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick things off with rule number 1, have a plan.
How many of you have a crazy dream or a crazy goal? I want you to write out in the comment section, what is your crazy dream? The dream that keeps you up at night is the real dream you should be chasing. But to chase that dream, to find that dream, to make that dream a reality, you need a strategy, right? A dream without a plan is just a wish. Tony Robbins said that, right? A dream without a plan is just a wish, right? Without a strategy, without a guiding philosophy, without guiding principles, without actually creating a clear plan. I used to have this economics teacher, and I want you to think back to school as well. Maybe you had one. I remember this economics teacher. He walked in to the classroom, and the first thing that he wrote on the board, he didn't even tell us his name. We didn't even know who he was. And he turned up, he went inside the classroom, and he wrote on the board, he said, "Failing to prepare is preparing to fail." And all of us just burst out laughing. This guy hadn't even told us his name yet. But on the board, he wrote, "Failing to prepare is preparing to fail." And now when I look back at that, and as I grew up and hopefully became a bit more mature than I was in high school, I remember thinking about that statement. I'm thinking, how true is that? That when you're not prepared for something, you miss out on unbelievable opportunities. Now, I'm not saying good things don't happen spontaneously. Sometimes things happen by chance, randomly, etc., with a reason. But when you're prepared, you can capitalize on things in a huge, huge way.
Rule number 2, live in your element.
Play to your own element. Don't try and perform someone else's expertly. So in modern terminology, or how would I say that, is don't waste your time. Steve Jobs, don't waste your time trying to live someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma. Focus in on your own strengths, your own element, what you have to offer. Don't get lost in trying to become like someone else or pretend to be someone else. There's a beautiful, one of my favorite quotes by Einstein and then Steve Jobs again. Einstein said, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it's stupid." And too many of us are fish trying to climb a tree. Too many of us are monkeys being taught how to swim. Too many of us are lions being taught to live like cats. We're not getting to live in our element. So my second piece of advice is live in that element that you've naturally been given. Don't try adopt another. We've all got a special genius inside of us. It was Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, this conversation. Steve Wozniak, for those who don't know, is the tech guy behind Apple. He practically invented the technology and the software and everything. So Steve Wozniak looked at Steve Jobs and he says, this is in Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs. Steve Wozniak looks at Steve Jobs and he says, "What do you even do?" He said, "You're not a coder, you're not a designer, you're not a marketer, and you're not an engineer. What do you even do?" Imagine challenging Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs replies, he says, "Musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra." That is the most deep understanding of one's role in life and not getting lost in other people's identities and perceptions of you. Steve Jobs knew that he wasn't a marketer, he wasn't an engineer, he wasn't a coder. So he hired all of those. But he played the orchestra, he brought it all together. And that's when you find confidence in your own role, you won't be envious of anyone else's.
Rule number 3, don't let failure stop you.
During a research experiment, a shark was placed into a large tank of water, and then some small fish were released into that tank. As you would expect, the shark quickly swam around the tank, watched the fish, and then ended up eating all of them. Then, a strong piece of fiberglass was inserted into the tank. This would create a division between where the shark started and where the smaller fish started. Again, the shark quickly attacked, but this time the shark went in straight into the fiberglass divider and bounced off. It tried this several times, again and again and again, until it became tired and weakened. Meanwhile, the fish on the other side of the divider carried on swimming peacefully. After about an hour, the shark finally gave up. This experiment was repeated several dozen times over the next few weeks, where the shark became less aggressive every single time. It got to the point that the shark stopped trying to attack and eat the fish at all. The fiberglass was then removed out of the tank, and to their amazement, the shark still did not attack. The shark had been trained through habit that a fiberglass divider was there and that it would bounce off, and therefore didn't even consider it. At the same time, the small fish freely swam wherever they wanted. The moral of the story: many of us are experiencing setbacks and failures in everyday life. Eventually, we get emotionally drained, tired, unmotivated, and we stop trying. Like the shark in the story, we believe that because we've been unsuccessful in the past, that barrier still exists even for new ventures. In other words, we continue to see a barrier in our heads that separates us from our dreams, even though there is no real barrier between where we are and where we want to go. And remember this: the teacher has failed more times than the student has even tried.
Rule number 4, my personal favorite: believe in your mission.
Fred Smith was an undergraduate at Yale University in 1965. As part of his coursework, he wrote an economics paper exploring the transportation of goods in the United States. It's how things get delivered to you and me. He found that shippers were transporting large packages and items either via truck or through passenger airplanes. He thought he had a more efficient method. He wrote a last-minute paper, as you do, about how a company transporting small items via a plane would be a much better business model. Because he was rushed, he never really got around to explaining in the paper how that company would run, and he ended up getting a C. The funny thing is, he still didn't give up, and in 1971, he actually launched the company he was speaking about. But within 3 years of founding the company, Federal Express, as it was called, was actually on the verge of bankruptcy. They were losing over $1 million a month. That was because of rising fuel costs, competitors in the same market, and at its zenith, it was only worth about $5,000. Smith even made a final pitch to General Dynamics hoping for more funding, and it was rejected. Most people at this point probably would have just shut down. Rejection, the grade C, losing $1 million a month. But Fred Smith had different ideas. Smith actually ended up flying to Las Vegas that weekend with all of what the company had, the $5,000. The Monday morning after, the company had $32,000 thanks to his blackjack skills. That money made it possible to cover fuel costs for just a few days more. Soon after the company was able to raise significant funds, he went around to multiple places to find sponsors, investors, people that believed in what he was trying to achieve as a service. The amazing thing is that he was creating a company that we all know today. It's called FedEx. It now operates in over 220 countries and has an annual revenue of over $45 billion. The interesting lesson that we can learn here is that there were countless occasions in Fred Smith's life where he could have said, that's it, it's not working for me. He could have stopped when he got that C for the paper. He could have stopped when he was losing $1 million a month. He could have even stopped when he finally only had enough to just last a few more days. But he believed in his vision. He had belief, he had conviction about his idea and the process and the service that he was creating. And that's the lesson here. If you really want to achieve something, you'll find a way. And if you don't, you'll find excuses.
Rule number 5, have a strong why.
I think Mark Zuckerberg said it brilliantly at Harvard. He was saying that finding your purpose isn't enough. You have to help other people find theirs. And I know you're passionate about this. Whatever that definition is, but it has to lead everyone. So whether I meet a celebrity, an entrepreneur, or whether I meet someone who's starting out, I'm always asking them the question, how can you use what you have to make a difference in the life of other people?
Yeah.
Because if you start there, everything else will work out. But if you're starting from the point of what am I gonna get, then you're always going to feel disconnected. And I see that. I see people who live like that and feel pain in their lives every day. I see that. It's not like some conceptual philosophy. We see it. I see people who are only in it for themselves and they feel disconnected, dissatisfied every single day. And then you see the other extreme where people are just trying to give too much, more than they even have themselves, and they also feel disconnected.
Wow.
And again,
and they have nothing at all.
And they have nothing at all, right? So we know, again, attachment and aversion, two sides of the same coin. So we want to be in that dynamic balance of growth, but always to give.
Yeah.
So I always think, how can I go 3 steps deeper so that I can move 3 steps forward so I can give 3 times as much? Right? That's always my mentality. How do I go deeper to go more forward to give more?
Yeah.
And if I can get those 3 in action for that reason. See, it's all about the reasoning. You can do anything you like, but it's why are you doing it?
Yeah,
we know
of
that,
course,
right?
yeah.
So.
Rule number 6, train like underdogs.
Now, it's incredible that we root for underdogs. It's incredible that we want underdogs to win. Why? Because we're used to wanting our team to win. We're used to wanting the best to win. We're used to wanting to associate ourselves with people who are successful, right? We never go, oh yeah, I know someone who plays for that really bad team. Like, we don't say that, right? We say things like, oh, I know someone who plays for that really good team. I know someone who was MVP. I know someone who's the son or the daughter of the MVP. We try and associate or link ourselves to success. And when we do that, it in turn makes us feel more successful. It's one of the reasons why when your team wins, you say, we won. Right? You say, we won. But when someone asks you, oh, how did your team do? And if they lost that day, you say, they lost. You rarely say, we lost. It's incredible how psychologically we distance ourselves from failure and we closen or liken ourselves to success. But the exception to that rule is the underdog. We all get excited by underdogs. We all get motivated by underdogs. We feel completely enamored by the story of the underdog. Prashant, underdogs are just simple-minded. They don't have expectations and don't have anything to prove to anybody. And Prashant, you've just hit the nail on the head. That's the principle I'm trying to get across. Actually, we should play like champions and train like underdogs. Why? Because the underdog works in a way not worrying about what anybody else thinks or believes. That gives you an edge. It gives you a phenomenal advantage when you're not actually worried about what will people say, when you're not concerned by, am I going to fail? Am I going to look worse? Is what I'm doing not going to succeed? As an underdog, you don't let those things cloud your mind. You can focus in on the task at hand. See, when we become successful, even as underdogs, if we've risen to success, the biggest enemy of that success, the biggest Achilles heel, the biggest thing that can trip us up is not reconnecting to that feeling of an underdog. So no matter how much success you've achieved, no matter where you are, always remind yourself the mindset of an underdog is the mindset that nurtures talent, that nurtures success, that harnesses your true potential.
Rule number 7, go through hurdles.
This man began singing and playing the guitar at age 4. His parents didn't want him to watch too much television. He was banned from playing video games, but he had a lot of books about art. He didn't enjoy school and was even bullied at age 15. A year later, he decided to quit school and follow his dreams of making it in the music industry. Now, things didn't go as planned. He ended up homeless, sleeping often on trains just to get by. This lasted for around 3 years where he had nowhere to live. He spent multiple nights and days performing to small groups, often without even eating. To his surprise, some of his tracks went viral on iTunes, even reaching the number 2 spot on the iTunes chart. By the end of the year, his album had sold 801,000 copies, making it the 8th best-selling album of the year. His latest song was one of the most listened to worldwide. His name? Ed Sheeran. Today, he's mentored by Elton John. Paul McCartney says that he's a fan. He's even written songs for Taylor Swift, One Direction, and many, many more. Ed's story teaches us that there's no such thing as an overnight success. He was so shocked and surprised when his album went viral online, but when you look at the struggle before that, you see the pain he had to go through. Often we only view people's success as what we see in their highlight reel, and we forget what they actually had to go through to get to that stage. And that's why the next time you see someone that you think is successful, don't focus on what they're doing now. Focus on what they did to get there.
Rule number 8, grow your brand.
What are people not understanding about video?
Okay.
What are they not understanding about how powerful it is for their business, their brand, and ultimately their message to impact people?
It's always that same question. What's the ROI on social media? Right? What's the ROI? Now, the funny thing is, your business, work, and service, my business, work, and service literally lives off of social media. So there's obviously an ROI. But the problem is we live in a world where we want everything to be measurable. And there's a beautiful Einstein quote that says, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that you can count counts, right? And we live in this world where everything needs to be measured. Like, oh, that video has 1 million views, how many sales did you get through that? But it's like, life doesn't work like that. There's a load of adverts and billboards on the street that the biggest brands pay for that don't convert into direct sales. Do you think that Coca-Cola looks at the billboard out there and goes, how many people saw that advert today and how many people bought a Coca-Cola because of that advert? They don't have that number. It doesn't exist. And they're one of the biggest brands in the world, but they still do it. So social media and video is just a new billboard. And the biggest brands know that the more you see it, like, I mean, this is funny, I saw this today. I saw a big billboard outside of my hotel that has all the Jenners and the Kardashians wearing their Calvins. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Right, I saw it straight away this morning. Then I saw it on Instagram, and then I saw it everywhere. So already, I've seen it in 3 places. Now, I don't need women's Calvin underwear. But the point is that I've seen it in 1 million places. So anyone who's not using video hasn't understood that more people are gonna see video than anything else. And not just that, video is so much better than a billboard. You can say so much more.
Right.
So for me, it's just a lack of seeing opportunity. There's a great, I think this is a old tale, it's not true, but it's told that when Nike first went to India, they went there, and it's not Nike, it's any sneaker brand, it's a nice story. And when they first went to India, they saw everyone was barefoot. So the first reporter came back and said, oh, there's no market there because no one wears trainers. And then the second reporter went there and he said, oh, no one wears shoes. And then he came back and says, we've got a huge market out there, right? And it's the way you see it. That someone saw no one wearing shoes as no market, but another person saw everyone not wearing shoes as a market.
Right.
And that's what video is. That you can sit here and debate the ROI on video for as long as you want. But the truth is, every major brand has invested in a front window that may not translate to direct sales or work or whatever it is.
Right.
But it does.
Do you think every brand should be using video?
Every brand should be using video.
Rule number 9, choose love.
I'm almost 30 and I don't feel like I've accomplished anything in life. I made a promise to myself while I was at university that I would get a job that excites me every morning. But right now I'm afraid I'm not going in that direction. That note was written by a young person. And when I read it, my heart sank. I felt that way because I know so many people that are in that exact position. I remember when I decided to trade my 9-to-5 for a 24/7, it was because I wanted to do something that was meaningful every day. I wanted to do something that was purposeful and fulfilling from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. The one thing I didn't know before I started is how achievable that was, but also what it required. When I transitioned from my 9-to-5, or actually my 9-to-9 to a 24/7, I realized that I was going to have to work harder, smarter, and faster. And that step was full of fear, full of anxiety, full of insecurity, full of questions like, what will happen if it doesn't work? What will people say? Should I just have stayed where I was? I went through all of those emotions all at the same time, and then something came to me. I wrote down the various options that I had in life at the time, and I wrote a word above them that I believe summarized the experience or the result of what I thought that would give me. Some of them said ego, because I thought those career paths would give me a boost to my ego. Some said security, because there were certain roles or jobs I could take that would provide a certain level of financial security. And then one path said the word love, because I knew if I did that I would love every moment, even if it was truly challenging and sometimes really difficult to deal with. And that's why I'm here today making this video, speaking to all of you, because I chose the path that had the word love above it. Try that exercise, try that activity out to try and differentiate the motive, the intention behind what you're choosing and selecting in life. Now, just because you choose the word love doesn't mean that everything's going to be smooth sailing and that you're going to be successful. It's going to have its own ups and downs. And that's why wherever you go with your heart, take your head with you.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is make wisdom go viral.
What's the impact that you want to have on the world?
I think you've said it so beautifully so many times and shared my vision, which is wonderful, and it's wonderful to know that we share the same thing. It's making wisdom go viral. There's an incredible study in 2017 that said the most successful people in the world, healthy, wealthy, and wise, choose education over entertainment. The impact I want to have on the world is I want to transform and revolutionize the entertainment industry so that it becomes educational without anyone knowing. So it's still completely entertaining. It's still like watching Netflix, but you're learning about human behavior, the mind, neuroscience, and everything without even knowing you are. To me, that's the greatest win that we can have for our society. How many people are going to quit watching Netflix and reading a book every night? I don't know. But if we can make that book come to life on Netflix, that's going to change the world, because that's what people are going to consume. So for so long, media has been used to numb people, to switch people off. If we can use it to excite, elevate, and enlighten people, not by like the cheesy way of like, oh, let's follow someone through their journey of enlightenment. It's not like that kind of stuff. I mean, like really entertaining programming where you can learn by being entertained at the same time. If I can do that by changing the most powerful industry in the world, then I will feel that I've had somewhat of an impact. Because that way I think we'll reach the world without having to get everyone to change their habits too much. My thing is, how do we meet people where they are and really deliver a message and a powerful expression of love? And to me, that's the highest form of compassion. The highest form of empathy, love, and compassion is to meet people where they already are, rather than expecting them to change.
Now I've got two very special Jay Shetty clips on how to, one, be resourceful, and two, don't underestimate the power of volume. But before that, I want to know, what did you learn from this video? What's the single most important lesson that you're going to apply to your life, your business somehow? Leave it down in the comments below. When you write it down, it's much more likely that you're going to actually take action on it. So let's see it in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I believe in you. I hope you continue to believe in yourself, and whatever your one word is. Much love. I'll see you soon, and enjoy the bonus clips.
So I quit my job, comfy corporate job, doing really well for myself, and I'm trying to get into media, and so I'm writing to every big media company before my videos and saying, please give me a job. Like, I'll come in at like a video journalist salary. I was looking at salaries at like a quarter of what I made. I was like, I don't care about the money. I want to make videos and I want to spread a message. I'm getting rejection email after rejection email saying, Jay, you never studied media. Jay, you have no background. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting rejected by all the biggest companies. Business Insider, HuffPost, The Economist, Wired, you name it. I've got all the emails. And then I try and network with the editors of these magazines. So I find out where they are, I go to the events, I try and talk to them. And they're like to me, hey man, you're like 28 years old. Why do you want to do this? You make more money right now, hang in the corporate world, do it as a hobby. I remember running after one of our biggest news anchors in England called Jon Snow. And he rides a bike around London, but he's huge. He's on Channel 4, one of the biggest broadcasters for us. And so I run after him when he's on his bike, and I'm like, John, please stop. And he stops, he's really kind. I say, John, can you please give me a job? I don't even want to get paid. I'll just watch you. And because he creates these powerful documentaries. He's interviewed the best of the best, like Mandela and all this stuff, life-changing conversations. And he goes to me, he gives me a card and he goes, Jay, go get a master's in media and then come back. And I'm thinking,
I've spent 2-3 more years.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to go back. Anyway, so I came to a point where I literally had no other option than to start a YouTube channel. And my honest limiting belief at the time was that doesn't work for anyone. And that's what I said to myself. I was like, it's not going to work for anyone. But I literally had exhausted. I think it's Thomas Edison who says, when you feel you've exhausted every option, remember you haven't. Mm. And I'd come to that point where I felt I'd exhausted every option apart from starting a YouTube channel. So I launched the channel Jan 3rd, 2016, 2 years ago, and it's doing pretty well.
Have you ever seen someone successful or famous and thought, I could do that better than them? So what's the difference? Why is it that they're out there achieving their goal while you're not able to? See, people underestimate the value of volume, the potential behind how many doors are you ready to knock on? How many tweets are you willing to send? How many people are you willing to ask for help and ask for their guidance and steers? We hardly achieve anything the first time we try. The people that have made it, it's on their 10th, 20th, 100th, sometimes 1000th attempt. So don't underestimate the power of volume. Don't underestimate what's possible when you go out there and speak to everyone that you know.
So let me give you the one-word secret to happiness. One word. This is all you need to be happy.
The most important word ever.
If you had to think of one word that's most important to you or that sums you up or that would be kind of like a little beacon.
If you want another amazing video highlighting excellence in the Indian community, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.